I am from Haskell, Texas, which is 50 miles north of here, and I I went to high school there, and then when I finished high school, I went to Baylor and played football at Baylor, and so uh, then when I was finishing school, my wife and I got married, and we started our family. And after I finished my playing ball there, I had an opportunity to go with Baltimore Colts, so I went to sign the contract, went to Baltimore, and went up there for a while. And then uh, things, as things worked out, most important thing to me prior to this was football. I met my wife. Football didn't become the main thing, family then. And so, anyway, that was important to me. We had a baby on the way, so uh, it wasn't going to work out as well as I thought when we got up there. Uh, I had an injury, and I'd asked the coach if he'd take care of that injury. He said, and first exhibition game we played in, I had an injury, and and then he called me in the next Monday. He said, asked me what uh, if I would play on the taxi squad. I said, I don't even know what that is. And so he told me what it was. And I said, well, okay. I said, well, let me ask you this, coach. I said, will you take care of my injury, my Achilles problem? And I asked him that twice in an interview. He never answered me. And anyway, I had some occasion with another guy from the Northeast. And so I said, anyway, I was in Dundalk. And so I went to Baltimore where my wife was. And I told her, I said, hey, you just need to load up. Said, we're going back to Texas. I said, I know both folks in Texas. I know what they talk like. I know what they mean when they say what they say. And so I said, I don't think it's the way it is up here. So we loaded up and came back to Texas. And so I gave that up. And here's the strange thing. His son-in-law was my position coach there at Baltimore. And so after I left and all came back, then his son got the job at St. Louis. And so he called me, said, would you join us? Said, I got the job in St. Louis, and would you join us there? I said, Coach, I said, I surely would, but I got to tell you, I had my Achilles done myself. And so I said, I'm just now being able to walk out there. I don't even know if I can run on it. So I said, I'll probably, no, I'm not going to play anymore. It's over for me. So thank you. I appreciate it. Good luck to you and each one. Good luck to you. And so goodbye. And so that's the end of my career. It was more football playing was concerned. But I knew when I was eighth grade what I wanted to do. I wanted to play football as long as I could. And I wanted to be a coach. Because I had great guys coaching me and working with me. And my dad was so interested in that. I was 6 months old when I had my first football game. But that's the way he was. I mean, that was Dad. I mean, my God, and then I worked with Dad all my life. He was a welder. So we load up in the morning, we go to work, and I was his swamper, so I'd take care of all that kind of stuff. And Dad was a good at it, and his kind is the guy you've ever seen in your life. But anyway, that's the way it was. He never taught me to weld because he wanted me to play football because that's what I wanted to do. And so he wouldn't teach me to do that. When Doug was 5 years old in the 5th grade, he took Doug and taught him to weld. God, here I was in college, and
He was smart enough. He was smart enough. I'd do it.
Then we got this guy. He's over screwing up everybody, And so anyway, Doug learned a skill. He really did. He went to college. He went to Baylor also, and he was head of a fraternity down there. So they had a deal every year, and so he'd build the float,
homecoming float.
Yeah, he'd build that gum thing. They'd rent a welder, and he'd weld that thing up. Golly bum, they'd do that thing. So that Doug learned what Dad had taught him, and so it just kind of worked that way. Well, Doug come home, gosh, Dad take him over just like he would me. He's with me all the time. And so anyway, we just had a great time. My dad and Doug and I, and so it was a neat deal. And he'd work with Dad in the summer times, and they'd go out and they'd sit down.
What
Doug, don't,
oh, screw it up.
yeah. Well, he said, now, Doug, he said, we're going to go out here. He said, now, you don't have to tell everything. He said, don't tell Mary. I wasn't going to tell all that. But anyway, here we go out to do this. And so said, Doug, you drive, I'll do this. So Doug, and nobody know about the drive about 10 years old. God dang, so Doug would drive out there and Dad
Drink his beer. Drink his yellow bellies.
yeah, he'd drink a beer. He said, don't tell Mary. Sure, God dang, mother, he never brought anything like that in the house, ever. But Doug would drive him around, take a beer too out there. So anyway, that's kind of the way it was, you know. And it's just a guy thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the way it was. I mean, we understood,
Yep.
and well, we grew up in the oil field, so we knew what it was like. I mean, it's not one of those, if you think, it's a common sense thing. It was a man thing. I mean, if you got down to getting, you got down and got it. You know what I mean? That's the way we operated. We always did. And so Doug learned it that way. And that's the way it was. That's the way I learned it. And so that's what I taught him. And so that's the way we grew up. That's what my dad did. And I just credit my dad with all that.
Dude was a crap.
A neat guy. Just a neat guy. Fine Christian man and all that good stuff. So that's kind of our beginning. Okay.
Doug, what do you want to say about a little bit about your background that maybe your dad hadn't already said?
Well, we were, it's funny. It was sports. I mean, everything revolved around sports. The cool thing about sports is sports was always process. Like, you don't do this. If you want to be a good athlete, you don't do this. I didn't do it. You know, I took it at face value and trust because I grew up with Dugan. I mean, Dugan poured into us, Pops poured into us. It wasn't a demeaning thing. Oh, you screwed up. You know,
No, we didn't do that.
There wasn't any of that. It was, you foul that up, fix it. You know what I'm saying? You got to get better at the process because the process is always going to push you higher. If you get out of process, you're not going to go higher. And I think so much of it is because that is, you know, of course they were educators, so everything was structured. You know, you talk about that, and there was such a team of people that we grew up with, especially in middle school, and the transition side of it. All of my friends work with mom and dad. You know what I'm saying? It was all the same page kind of deal as far as, son, this is how life works. This is how you do life. This is what happened. And you couldn't do anything wrong because everybody's watching. I mean, you couldn't sneak out without somebody knowing, or there really just wasn't worth the effort to try to do something off color or, you know what I'm saying, nefarious, whatever you want to call it, because everybody I got in the car with, their parents knew. I mean, it was a conspiracy. That's what it was, a freaking conspiracy, because they knew we'd snap off, do something stupid. But and we did. I mean, all my friends, they were good. You say good kids. We were disciplined and structured, I think, and the quirks that we had weren't to go off and do something illegal or malicious or whatever. It was just, we were kids. We grew up. We pushed on like we were. We were hangs in the neck, hyper, loud. You know, we kind of made bad to try to sneak around because I'm like, shut up, dog. You ain't going because you're too freaking loud. We'll get caught. I mean, I just, you know, it's one of the deals on my friend. I'm like, how dang Star's come on. I sure didn't go fishing and hunting with them because I was terrible. I'm like, oh, Doug, you're scaring them. What? We've been here 20 minutes. Shut up, I ain't waiting alone. Anyway, that was just, you know, it's funny just the dynamic it was. But all of my core friends' parents were of the same, they were cut out of the same cloth. I mean, it was just, you know, you talk about it, it wasn't an anomaly. Because I look at Robert McAdams, I look at Jay Estes, I look at Darrell Armour, I look at, you know, the guys that I, you know, spent so much time growing up with, it was all the same. I mean, we go over somebody's house, screw up, and everybody's getting busted. I mean, it was just, you know, it was a messed up deal. But I think so much of it was there was conspiring because our dads were our heroes, and we saw them do what we wanted to do, and they showed us how to do it like it was nothing. You're like, yeah, that's weird. So we just fell in place. I mean, it was just, I don't remember really any time, of course, you think you're better than you are and you got to get humble on that deal. But I never really remember a time when we were just so rebellious that it was just a beat down to get us to submit. It wasn't. We just did what we did.
So you guys, this time frame that you're talking about is being in Haskell, Texas,
Well,
small town.
yeah, that was in Abilene because we moved here when I was in seventh. Yeah, we were 4, and we moved for a little bit of coaching, and we were in Haskell. But then when I got into middle school, we came to Abilene.
Okay.
So we were in Abilene. So those years where I really think your late elementary, your junior high years, I really think are the formative. Man, it is where you understand what it is to be masculine and to be that kind of guy to take into adulthood. Because you work out, oh, it's sore. Well, keep working out, son.
Well, I was coaching at Cooper High School, and Ray Olson was a head football coach, and he had coached me in high school. And so I was, when he got the job, he called and said, "You want to come down?" Right? I said, "Yeah." And so Doug was his that age, and so when he had to get out of school, I'd send a manager to pick him up. They'd bring him up there, and first thing he did, put on a football uniform, get up there with the guys. So we got today. Ray had talked to the guys, and he was out there listening to it. So he was pumped up, just like all those guys were out there that playing ball.
It just it was a smooth transition into the life that made. I tell people all the time, if you're transformed, you're transported. Athletics was the cocoon in which my life was transported into adulthood. That was it. It was process. It was team and process.
Okay. Let me ask Rob in particular about the time that Doug came along, into your family, and then on from there. Did you ever consciously think about passing on your name to him, your surname or anything like that? Did you consciously think about those kind of things?
Not really, I don't guess, because it's just so you did it. It's just what it was.
Yeah.
It's just that's his mind. That's what it is, and that's him. And what we're going to do is what we've done. And so he picked up and took it, and just as part of us.
So Doug, conversely, as you grew into adulthood, did you ever think in terms of there's something special about carrying the Starr name or the reflection on your dad of what you do or any connect?
I think there is. My wife did a deal for me and said, Dad, your daughter's first love and your son's first hero. But everything that Dad did, I wanted to do. I was going to Baylor. I crud. I don't know how old I was. And I was going to Baylor. Boss went to Baylor. I was going to Baylor. Where you going to school, Baylor? You going to go to Texas Tech? I'm like, no, I thought you'll go to hell if you go to Texas Tech. Right, or anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? It was just definitive right there. You're going to Baylor. And, of course, sports was the same way. Of course, working was the same way. It's the same garbage. If they tell you, boy, let me tell you something. See that flower bed out there? Those are your weeds. That flower bed's my flower bed. Get your weeds out of my flower bed. Okay. And it's just, it was a dynamic of the ownership is you're going to work your way back into this because work and sacrifice is the only currency that Christianity has. And I think so much of it is people don't understand it. But I work with my granddad. When I was in middle school, that's when you kind of start, twisting or doing it. But I work with my granddad. Dugan, he's teaching me to drive when I'm 11. Yeah. He said, Doug, you got to get on the other side of the yellow stripe, right? So he was just freaking out, you know what I'm saying? He drinking a Yellow Belly. I'm on the other side of the yellow stripe. Boy, he's right there in town. But, there's a lot of funny stuff that goes on with that. But there wasn't ever a question. Well, why are we doing it? It's what we do, boy. Pops. So it was a leadership and dynamic is, if you know who you are and where you're going, it's like Forrest Gump running. Forrest Gump was just running. Everybody's running after him. Where are you going? Oh, this is where we're going. All right. So you just did it. And there wasn't, I mean, I did. Of course, I had 4 older sisters, you know, come back in this deal. So crap, I was getting away from them. Yeah, they were the devil.
Rob, let me ask you this then. Was there a time when you were raising Doug that you realized that his maker didn't make him exactly like you?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That there were things that he had in there that, and what did you do with those things? Or was it just an acknowledgement, or can you address that?
It's always athletics. Now, and football was always mine.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't always Doug's. Doug was, he enjoyed football. He liked football, was good in football, but he begun to lean toward basketball. He really likes basketball. And so I wasn't saying, oh, you don't play football. That's not it. He did what he wanted to do. And he was a good basketball. I mean, he's a leader on his basketball team. You know, he was a good one. And so that's the thing that I think is important. And
Trey is baseball.
Trey is
so it's
he didn't make him do basketball or football. Trey says, this is what I'm going to do.
And Trey is Doug's son.
That's his son.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, the guy works 113-degree temperature. He works all day long, a full day, 8 hours. When he gets through, he goes and practice baseball 3 hours after that.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. It's just like with Doug. There's a guy on the John Deere place up there. He said, Doug's about, he's 12 or maybe.
Well, yeah.
He said, Doug said, I'll tell you what, said, I'll give you this lawnmower if you'll mow my grass. And then if you want to go mow somebody else's, go mow that somebody else's. So he took it. I hauled him around. God dang, we go all the time. And so I was working with another guy. We did some other things. And so I said, I hadn't checked on Doug in a while. I got to looking around. I said, I can't find Doug. And so I got to looking. Well, across the street, they had a little drive-in where you get something to drink. And so I said, I saw that mower over there. So I said, I see where he is. So I went over there. And I went over there. He's sitting down by the cold drink machine over there, crying. He'd gotten him he just took a look at the thing, and it was so cold, it hurt his stomach so bad. But that's what he went 100 miles an hour. Then, I mean, he's 11 years old. Every day, he's just like that all day long. And so, and he's just, guy is crying, he's hurt so bad. Said, Dad, my stomach hurts. I feel good. And that's what it was. He just, it's so hot, and he got down in it. Anyway, but that's the way he ran his life. And that was just, that's Doug. And it was, and I thought it was just a great thing.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, he had 3 sisters, and they were just like that. Not like that. But they worked. They all had jobs all their life. Mm-hmm. They learned to work, but they learned to work because their mom, and I always had them.
He's working,
and it's just that's just the way they did, and they're still doing it. I mean, our oldest is deceased now, 5 years ago. He had pancreatic cancer, and she's the glue for the whole deal. And so, very
interesting. Doug, what we maybe touched on some of this, but what do you feel like that you've received from your dad in terms of what traits of his do you still carry, do you think? And he articulated a little bit of differences, but would you characterize yourself having some of the same traits as him, but also there's some differences? Could you address that?
We always knew who we were, right? I think what's your last name, boy? Starr. When the stars shine the brightest and when it's dark. And I think a lot of it, we always knew who we were. Also know as we came in there were strengths that I know that look, coaching is a craft. I think so much of it is, you talk about fatherhood is because people aren't coached to where they need to be. So that was the dynamic that I always knew, because You compliment, you correct, you challenge. It's coaching. Coaching is you compliment, you correct, you challenge. And when we were corrected, there was never a disconnect. God almighty, you're stupid. You need to get out of here and go figure. No, look, idiot. You ain't gonna figure it out by yourself. You can go out there and throw a fit, whatever, but you go get your junk together and get your butt back in here, and we're gonna do it right. There was never a disconnect on the discipline, because your breakdown is, God, you're a loser. Get out of here. You're stupid. And then there's that condemnation. The correction isn't condemning. Correction is get your stuff right, and that is that was the craft that set everything apart, because people don't know how to do it. Oh, I don't like confrontation. Oh, I don't like to tell him he's doing it. Well, yeah, a problem with it, because we were aggressive enough to know, what the boundaries, how we function, but it was always, that's what it was. This is who you are. You're going to screw up. You're going to fix it.
Yeah.
And the shame is in quitting, not crushing,
Yeah.
right? And I think so much of it is, that's the dynamic that you talk about, fatherlessness or whatever, is you got to learn how to take a compliment, and you got to learn how to take correction. That was, what I'm saying, as we say, somebody comes in the room, you acknowledge them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was huge. You walk in, you didn't talk, if you didn't speak or acknowledge somebody, you're going to get freaking hammered. I mean, because we don't do that. Right.
Let me ask you, going back to Rob for a minute, and of course it's obvious you're very proud of your son, but can you think back, especially as Doug was moving into adulthood himself, can you think of an incident that you stood back and you're looking, man, I'm proud of him?
Yeah. Now I have to tell you, as the world had begun to form and all these different attitudes about the gays, the transgenders, all this kind of stuff, all that kind of stuff. Well, Doug, I mean, he goes to church. He's regular. We go to church. We don't go to the same church. So we didn't say, you got to go to the same church we go. He chose the church he wanted. And so I mean, we never did delve into that much. We had a situation to arise. And I said, let me ask you this. Are you, and I asked him about this. He said, hey, let me tell you. He said, he's a man. He makes his decisions. He said, no, I won't be a part of that. I said, I'm so proud of you, son, because I want, and it was is a family situation. And I wasn't going to be a part, because I said, if I go be a part of that, then I sanction it. I don't sanction it, Bruce. That's not a part of me. I'm a Christian. I know what the Bible says. I know what God says. And so we don't do that. And Doug exemplified that same thing. And we had never discussed it at all. That's what he said. And so I was so proud of that. You talk about pride. I was very prideful of that. Yes, I was.
Well, Doug, what do you most admire about your dad? And coupled with that, what of your dad do you want to most pass on to your son, Trey?
It was always consistent. There was never a question. Oh, does my daddy love me? Or, oh, does it, look, boy, if it fouls up, get your fanny home. Does that make sense? And I think so much of it is that, there ain't anybody perfect. Everybody got their foul up and funky. But I never doubted that I wasn't loved. And we always came home. I mean, we were cut out of the same cloth. I know there's a lot of guys, my dad, mom, I can't wait to get out of it. That wasn't it either. I mean, we had fun. I mean, boy, if you can't throw rocks at a bottle in a tree and have other people throw rocks with you, you suck. You know what I'm saying? Your life, you can't do it. And the deal was, look, if it's a competition, competition is fun. If you're competing to get better, it's going to be fun. If you go to the weight room and you're sore, you laugh. You know what I'm saying? It was all a progression to get refined and to get better. And that is only brewed in a petri dish of consistency. He wasn't, well, I'm tired. I'm not talking to you. And I was like, boy, get your children, let's go. It was always, that is what it always was. And we didn't have roller coasters, right? I mean, you had stuff go on, but I mean, if we wanted to go do something, boy, get your children, let's go. You didn't foul that up, told you to be there where you're supposed to be. If you're going to tell me where you're going to be somewhere, you better be there, because if you're not, I'm going to wear you out. God, it was just a consistent, steady road. And people don't understand that, because that takes a strength of character for someone to cross a bridge that was built for them, that he didn't have to walk across. And that was Dugan. I'll tell you right now, because I mean, that's where we were going. Where are you going? I'm going to Dugan's. He said, I'm a bit out of shape. He said, where are you going? I'm leaving. He said, where are you going? Dugan's. All right, take off.
Now,
Right.
Dugan's
My dad, his dad, my dad.
Dugan's is his dad's dad. And it was one of those things. There was homeless sanctuary.
Yeah.
If there was something, like, it didn't matter. Homeless sanctuary, it didn't matter what went on. Something stupid happened, or my sisters, sisters, you're Dave, somebody like, God, you're stupid. Anyway, but, homeless sanctuary. If you were going, I always had that spot. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High rests in the shadow of him. I had that. And I think so much of it is what you want to pass on. And you tell your kid, look, boy, you make sure make sure they're safe, and make sure accepted, affirmed, and appreciated. That's the only A's in life you got to know.
just like you received from his dad, Dugan, what do you want Trey to receive from your dad?
Same thing. Trey come over here, be a cheerleader. You know what I'm saying? I thought, I'm going to coach Trey. No, it doesn't. Trey didn't want me to coach him.
Yeah.
Trey wanted me to cheerlead. See, because the dynamic, my girl is my kid. You mean my daughter is 100% mine. That boy is 100% his mom's.
And I was going to tease it. Trey had to throw the ball. I played quarterback in college, and I coached quarterback. So I set up a deal for him. And I said, get you some friends, come over, and you throw to them, and let me work with you throwing over the bar and this kind of stuff. We got out there to throw. Well, he brought some little guy over here, and I had throwing the ball, and he'd throw it so hard that the little kid couldn't catch the ball. So anyway, and he couldn't find one to come help it. And so anyway, so he lost interest in this. And so I said, I'll put this junk up, and we'll do whatever else we need to do. Well, he thought, that's the fun.
Good God, he throw the ball.
Yeah, he can throw the ball.
Yeah, and that clock in 97 from right field.
Yeah, I cannot believe that.
97, good Lord. He said, you want to play catch up yours, boy? He'll freaking find you a friend.
Hurts my hand.
He ain't right. I mean, I'm crying. I ain't catching that crap.
Well, Rob, looking back, what do you think is the key help that Suzanne played in helping you raise your son?
She understood discipline.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole deal. And you have to have a mate like that.
That's right.
If you're going to raise a boy, you got to raise a boy. You can't let,
one word.
Girls are different. I don't give a dang what anybody says. Those folks are different. And so their whole deal is, now I'm going to tell you, except maybe, and I got to tell you this, that oldest daughter,
sweet.
She is a 10-year-old, and we were living in Borger, Texas. I was assistant coach there. And in the summer, had a summer program. So all the football players come up there, and so we worked out. And so I'd take the kids up there with me, all four of those kids. I'd take them up there. And so we walked in one day, and she said, Dad, I didn't know we had boxing gloves up here. I said, yeah. She said, I like the box. I said, okay, if those guys, if they'll leave soon enough and we don't have to go home, we'll just box when we get through. I said, okay. And so anyway, and they got in late. So I started walking out. I looked over. God dang, honey. I said, I forgot about she said, oh, that's okay, Dad. I said, we boxed anyway. And she said, you know what I found out? I said, what'd you find out, sugar? She's 5'2". She said, I found out, and this other girl was 2 years older than she was. Said, I found out, said, if you hit them hard and hit them in the face, they don't want to box anymore. She figured that out. Oh, I'm gonna tell you what, that's what she did for life.
She was, dude.
She was tougher than a wood.
Oh, no, damn, I'm telling you, she was a jack.
But that was a good. She had a great attitude. She's a great kid.
So when you look at your mom, Doug, yeah, they obviously Rob and Suzanne were joined together on respecting the disciplinary team. Is there anything in particular you look back at your mom that she helped you through something that your dad needed her assistance in?
Well, I think there's her mother's touch is sometimes a little more gracious,
Like compassionate.
more compassionate.
Yep.
What it was.
I wasn't quite there.
Yeah, boy, suck it up, quit being a little girl. You know, one of those deals, right? But well, of course, stories about what mom called anyway. No, but the funny thing about it is they were yoked. They were yoked to get to the same end, and the female, feminine, compassion motherly side could push you probably a little bit better sometimes in your feels than when pops would. So it was a good balance from the standpoint of you ain't gonna you're not gonna turn them against each other. That was a lost cause, but it was more that it's like my friend Dan Mutton. I can tell Trey the exact same thing Dan Mutton tells him, and he'll listen to Dan Mutton. He won't listen to me. Some people get offended. I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not offended by that. More from the standpoint of if I am smart enough to get people around me that think like me, I could care less.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the way mom and dad were. It was the same thing in a different tone. If that, you know what I'm saying? And that was the whole dynamic because, I'm gonna do it. I'm like, you're gonna do something stupid, right? Because it was an alignment that a lot of people, because the consistency in growing up deals with the consistency of in the dynamic and the culture of in which you grow. So if one's up and down and the other one's steady, look, you're just washed out. But when we came home, everything was the same. I'm tired of eating peanut butter, Dad. Here's some strawberry jelly in there. Suck it up and get over it, right? We're out of grape jelly. It was the same consistency of things. And went, this how it is. This what we do. We ain't changing.
And his mother, let me tell you, his mother and that. I grew up in an oil field. Her mother grew up in a dress shop. She owned a dress shop in Haskell. They had more berries from Abilene than not in Abilene. Look, they all came to Lane Felker in Haskell, Texas. And so she was the constant classic. And so Suzanne grew up in that. And so I'd not been to that. And, and that play growing, I'd come in there, then we were growing, they ripped them. Took the heads and tail. They brought glamour. But he got to see, he was able to view her to see kind of good as a transition out. And develop. And then I was what I was. And so he integrated the two. And so this is kind of what he came up with.
So Rob, what would you say at this stage of your life and relationship, what is it you most enjoy about Doug?
Our relationship. We think so much together.
Mm-hmm.
I know what he's thinking. He knows what I'm thinking. There's no question about it. I know what I ask him, what the answer is going to be. And he's a very consistent young man. And I don't have to worry about
the process has been duplicated.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a duplication of, this we do it to heck with everybody else. No, boy, this is right.
Yeah,
this is how we're going to do it. This is how you make people. Yeah. If you can't find something somebody's doing good, shut up.
Mm-hmm. Doug, what did you most like when you're being raised, or even currently now, most like about hanging out with your dad?
It was Well, your kindred spirits, one, I mean, that has a lot to do, you know what I'm saying, with just family, but everything was a progression of tell me your victories. What did you do today? God dang, did you get anything done? Which is code for what did you win? You still winning. And then the problem is a lot of people, they don't know, you win or you lose or you don't know how to win. And we were always be winning, but teach people how to win. So the purpose of him asking me, hey, you're doing this, well, by God, did you get somebody else to the same place that you want to be? And it's funny, you look at what I'm doing now and the heart that I had, because I mean, that's what I started in. When I was at Project Pass, guess what? I had the disc barrels. Yeah. I had the discards. I had the kids nobody wanted. You'd say that didn't know anything, but nobody knew how to connect to them. For whatever reason, the good Lord gave me that. He gave me that card.
Tell about Brandon.
Okay, so of course, Lee, of course, at the ministry, Lee is my boy. He is a kindred spirit to me, because the funniest thing, he first thing told me, he said, you've never fit in anywhere that you've worked. And I never did. And the coaching I did, but that was a microcosm of the whole. Other teachers and administrators, they didn't care for me. I came in a different dynamic. Like, oh, we need to do this. I'm like, no, that's a little bit off and a little bit stupid.
They weren't strong in that. They weren't strong in that.
Does that mean what it meant? A little bit. Wait, I was a little bit more outspoken and demonstrative about the stuff that I knew worked, because I grew up with that consistency. And it's a funny thing, because people told me all the time, you were born 30 years too late. That era that he was at, that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
So as we came back to this, and you talk about being with him, I know that the process of what it was to be done old school masculine was mine. And there was a huge deficiency in the school system, classroom-wise, that they never addressed.
Right.
So just the nature of me, hell, I addressed it. They didn't want me to.
No.
They didn't want to mess with it. And it's funny you say it, because, going back to Lee got me, because he says, we're addressing it.
Now explain who Lee is.
Lee Morse is the editor of Head of Nehemiah.
Yeah.
Lee Morse. And the crazy thing about that is he's the same dynamic, because his search for fatherhood, I truly believe, was the representation that I brought to him.
Yeah.
Because that's another story, another time. But all that to say is, when it was, I knew consistently, and that's what Dugan said. He said, we're doing man stuff. Right? We're going to shoot gun, we're going to work, you're going to get blisters, you're going to mash your, you're going to mash your finger.
No, not Brandon.
Oh, Brandon, my bad. So we're at Project Pass my first year. Brandon is a kid with Down syndrome. And what happened is, when I first started, they had a Project Pass and they had Woodson Skill Center. Now, I don't know if you remember back in the day, they had a teacher that taught them the handbells. And it was the Woodson, and it taught them handbells. Well, it was the mentally handicapped, mentally retarded kids that they had in the program. Well, Brandon was, holy smoke, Dad, how old was that? 24, 25?
Oh, no, Brandon?
Dad, I'm telling you.
No, he was.
Dad, he was, dude, I'm telling you, he was
14, maybe.
No, Dad, anyway, but he had Down, and dude, he was a spark plug.
He was dead.
Dude, he was funny. Well, what they would aggravate that boy. Well, he'd cussed him a blue streak. Oh, good God. He was about 4'10" and about 3'10", right? He was a bowling ball. Well, they wouldn't mess with, Brandon loved me, because I'm like, hey, Brandon, what's up, dog? What are you doing? And I'd give him a candy or whatever. Well, the teachers and the A's get bent out of shape, because when they come by my room, he'd want to come in and talk to them. Right? And they're bent out of shape, because they're herding cattle, and I'm fouling it up because I'm running a circus, right? So he's coming in there and all bent out of shape. Brandon, he wouldn't leave. So he's cussed up, he's shooting on the finger. He had,
he could live on what? How about them Cowboys?
So, if they lost that clown on him, oh, God almighty. dude, and he would go
Say, F you.
Oh, he'd blow up on all of them, cussing. I mean, the whole lot of them, just burning them. Well, he come to me and it was heaven. Well, I just crack up. And so what would happen is, through the course of the year, I had such a rapport with him, I'd get him to just do anything. So when they'd get all bent out of shape and stuff, they'd have to eat crow and come get me to get him to, change classrooms or chill out or whatever. So I just take the little toot. Come on, Brad, let's go. Am I going with you? Yeah, come on, man. So what I would do, and so you got all these little rebel kids, right? All these little gamers. They're 2 years behind. So, I mean, you got 12, 13-year-olds that already got kids, running dope, whatever. So I bring Brandon in there, and I would sit him down by those kids. Well, it freaked them out because he was handicapped. And it just messed up their dynamic because I'm like, whoever, come on in, I don't care. And I'd sit them down, it'd wiggle them out. So I'd clown them. So I'd get him to clown on those kids. I'd have me a little handicapped kid. I'm a little punk dropout kid. I mean, it was just,
But here's the deal. He'd say, they'd say, how about them Cowboys? That's when they get beat. And he'd say, F you. And they said, oh, if you talk like that again, you're not going to see Mr. Starr. You can't see me. Oh, God, it'd just kill his soul. If he thought
he started crying, he don't do it. And I'd sneak up put my arm around him. Oh, golly.
He was just, I mean, but that, and Doug appealed to those kind of guys. For me, even those guys that he had in class that were
jerks. I mean, they were little punks.
Yeah, and they'd been treated that way. And Doug come in, he'd went up to them. Those guys come up and hug him.
Yeah.
It's just like the men in Nehemiah. Those guys say, they run up and grab him and say, I love you, Doug.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's,
he
just has that ability to do that.
Well, as we're wrapping down on this, thank you for those stories. That's terrific stuff. A question I want to ask you, Rob, is looking back, what do you think is the most valuable advice you ever gave your son?
I just always said, be honest. Whatever you do, you just be honest. Tell the truth. Do what you're supposed to do. And that's the way I grew up. That's the way he grew up. And that was our motto. So, that's the way we were.
Would you say that is the advice that you heard from him most?
Yeah. Well, and I think so much of what, it's funny you say that. I got a good buddy of mine. His name's Robert McAdams. And of course, Pops and his dad coached together. And we came in, we're talking. I said, you know what? Isn't it amazing the powerful dynamics our parents told us that the best life is a very simple, honest life. I mean, we got to do this. No, you're not, boy. Shut up and go to work every day. Get better at what you're doing. Make somebody feel good. Go home, eat something, go to bed, do it again. Everybody wants to make it complicated. Oh, you got to do this and this. Oh, yeah. No.
Okay. Let me tell you what this McAdams said. His youngest son, he was a pain in the neck, worse than further down. And so anyway, he's always messing up, screwing up, fouling up. And so they were working over the house one time, they were doing some stuff at our house in Aspen. And so Marcus out there doing his regular stuff. He said, damn, Mark. He said, would you just go on? He said, you just like a damn fly. All you do is eat shit and bother people. 24 more. Now that's it.
That's the stuff. That's the stuff we grew up with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You could do something, but you're gonna get clowned on. Yeah, it's always it was. But it was. But the thing is it was real. Make a facade, son. No, ain't no facade.
Nobody made it.
Not like, look,
real.
Do your junk. So
that's what it is.
Okay, I just got 2 questions left, one for each of you, but I'm phrasing these as optional questions. Okay. If you don't want to answer these, we'll just stop the video right now because, and I can edit them out too, but they're they're a little bit different from, obviously, you guys enjoy yourselves together immensely, but, we all have bumps in the road,
Sure.
and so forth. And so, Dad, Rob, I want to ask you, what, in your estimation, is your most memorable regret or shortcoming that you recall from fathering your son?
Yeah. Oh, man, I can't. God, I don't know.
And if there's not, that's great, but it's just,
I can't really think of anything that I ever really screwed down on him about and that I heard. Was that opposed to him about doing it? We just never. I may I give you another example?
sure.
He became president of a tournament there at Baylor. It's 10 o'clock at night. I never will forget. Phone rang, so I picked up the phone and said, he said, Dad, this is Doug. I said, what's going on, bud? He said, I'm on the way to Austin. He said, I'm over there. I said, I'm over here. They sent me over here. The older guys sent him to get a case of beer. He said, Dad, do you think I made the wrong mistake in being in this state? I said, let me tell you something, son. Maybe you did. But I said, you're in it. You go ahead and do what you have to do, what you've committed to do. And when you get back, if that's not you, then you leave. I never heard from him again. He took care of it. But let me tell you something else he did. They had a basketball game. Baylor played University of Texas. And in that ball game, Doug and his crew sat behind the University of Texas team. And all during the game, they heckled the deadgum Texas team. I mean, just continually, just the whole deal. And so, just irritated the soup out of. Well, then when the thing was over, they went to a restaurant. Well, so happened, Texas team came there also. And guess what? They continued the same thing. Well, they found out who Doug was and all those other guys. And so the coach told the president of University of Texas, he called the president of Baylor. And so president of Baylor called Doug in. He said, son, let me tell you, you need to go apologize to the University of Texas president and the head basketball coach for what you did at the game. They said, okay. So we got one or two of his buddies. They drove to Austin, and they did. They apologized for the whole big deal. And so that's where little cheek took his cheek. Tongue in cheek. But he did what they asked him to do. But I thought, well, that's the champion. I do appreciate him for that. He screwed up, and he made amends as best he could do at the time for that.
So, Doug, kind of a complimentary question to this is, looking back, is there one thing that maybe you did that you knew you disappointed your dad?
No, it's funny. No, it's funny you say that. I think there's a lot of people that deal with the regrets. You take your path, but I always knew I was on an honorable path. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So look, I went on a blind date, married no gal 30 years in. I mean, this year's 30 years. I was never a drunk. I was never a carouser. Not to say, oh, I've done this and this. No. There's a lot of things that we were shielded from the standpoint of the foundation of life. Our parents, you talk about an anomaly. They've been married 64 years. My best friend, Jay Estes, his parents were married, 47, 48 years when Coach passed. The McAdams, who are my best friends, they were married 50 years?
Yeah.
Okay. The Orsinis, they were married 50 years.
Yeah.
The Sulls have been married 60-something years. So the context of what my life was shaped in was an anomaly. So you sit there, oh, I didn't. No, I didn't. I mean, because it's health-wise. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Pop's turns 86, Mom's 82. we had the first unnatural death in our family was 5 years ago with my oldest sister. So you're looking at, my grandparents lived until their 80s. My grandmother was in her 90s. That thing worked out like that. So, I mean, there's a progress of life where you sit there and go, this junk works. So for me to be disappointed, whatever, I mean, you do, you screw up and you got to, you get robbed, you lose your money, life hits you in the face. Hey, Dad, can you help me out? Yeah. You do this, but I always knew home was home, and I always knew home was functional. So people can talk about, well, this happened. Look, dude, we're building a house. You're going to hit your finger. You're going to stub, you know what I'm saying? All of that. But when you look at the context of the frame of work, you know what I'm saying? The body of work, there's not, he wasn't running around with other women. My mother wasn't crying because he was abusing her or whatever. We didn't have that dynamic. So to say, oh, we have a perfect, I'm not saying it. I'm saying that the body of work was foundational, and to the point where, like you say, like when you play sports, there is no doubt. When you leave, there wasn't any doubt of, hey, this how you stay married. This what you do. You live better. This how you live. This how you raise your kid. This how you do this. Because it was walked out from.
That was the example.
It wasn't a, I'm going to tell you, boy, get your fanny in, jazz in the truck, and we're gonna walk. And I'm gonna show you how to do this. Watch one, do one, show one, and that's sports. I mean, if you can coach, you can coach. If you're gonna tell, you can't. You don't tell, you demonstrate it.
Yeah. I guess in closing out this interview, I thank you guys for so much time with us today. And I don't know where this is going to go, this whole video thing. You have helped me immensely as I go back through it. Are there any closing comments that either one of you want to make? If perchance this video or the contents of some of this goes out to an audience that largely in our society are fatherless, do you have anything to say to them beyond what's been covered today?
I know my Heavenly Father because I had a father that chased him.
That's where it is. It's in the church. That's
was Dugan. It's Dugan.
It's Dad.
I knew heaven was heaven because I knew Dugan. I knew.
We're not a great Bible scholar. That wasn't.
He could live it,
but he lived it. He surely did. That's the thing that is important. And you do what you're supposed to do. Man, that's just one of those things that happens. And what your responsibility is. You take care of your responsibility, and there's no excuses for not doing it. That's exactly where it is. And so that's our mantra.
That's good. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm going to close out this video. I so appreciate your visiting with me.
Well, we enjoyed it. We had a great time. Thank you, Mike, for this.
You're welcome.
Thank you.